Once you become aware, do you have to have a plan of where you are going? Or do you leave that up to the universe to bring that to you for you then to make the choice? That's many people have been asking that question. Do you have a plan to where you are going, or does that just happen when you are in touch with the creative power within you? Either way may be the case. For some people, something just spontaneously and organically grows, and before they know it, they are engaged in some inspired and empowered activity. It may start very small, and they may not even know that how it's going to grow and develop. It's just the consciousness takes over, and they didn't plan it. Sometimes, just an example, you could have a musician who just loves playing this instrument, and then he is at a street corner playing his instrument. And then somebody comes and says, "Oh, this is great, why don't you come to a studio?" And it can develop from there without him having had any plan, just enjoying the doing. For others, something may come to them suddenly, an image of something that wants to, I put it that way, I say that wants to be created. It's not so much I want to create this. When something comes to you from a deeper level, it feels more like that this wants to be created. So it comes, an image or a thought even comes to you, and then you suddenly know what it is that wants to be created through you. And then one could say that you have a plan. But the plan is very different from the plans that the ego had when you were still trapped in ego structures, because whatever plan the ego has is very limited by its needs. The ego really seeks itself. Through its plans, it seeks an enhancement of itself. So those are the plans that the ego creates, and they are flawed, deeply flawed. And whatever action you take in order to carry out the ego's plans is also going to be deeply flawed, and will bring about a lot of heartache and problems, and creates problems more and more for yourself and others. And it's hard, it's a struggle. That's always a sign that there's the ego somewhere. You're struggling. I'm not talking about intensity. Things that plans. So you have ego plans. They are really. There's always a hidden self-seeking in whatever the plan might be. The ego, when it comes through the ego, it's a hidden form of self-seeking. But the plans that I'm talking about here come from a deeper level within yourself. That's why I usually say not that you want to create this or that, but it wants to be created through you. And so there is the deeper, the unconditioned wants to create form through you, because it loves the creation of form. How do I know that? Well, just look around and you see that the universe loves to create multiplicity, an incredible multiplicity of life forms everywhere throughout the cosmos. Just planet Earth alone, just look at the billions of life forms. So obviously the universe enjoys the creation of form, and it has some purpose that we cannot conceptually, rationally, intellectually fully understand, although we can have an inkling of why. But we cannot fully understand what the ultimate purpose of the creation of forms is. Yes, we have an inkling, I sometimes talk of it. But one thing is certain, the universe enjoys that. Consciousness enjoys the play of form. And it can happen through you. And it's deeply enjoyable. So something may come to you, then and then you can say, oh, I have a plan, and it'll be inspired, and there's no self-seeking in it. In other words, you're not looking to whatever it is that wants to be created through you. You're not looking to it for happiness or self-enhancement or fame or wealth. That those things may come. You may get fame, you may get wealth, you may get those things as byproducts, but that's not the reason why this creation happens through you. There is no self-seeking, and yet whatever the ego would have sought for itself may come to you as the adding on, as Jesus puts it. Things may be added on. If there's an enormous energy output from you into the world, it's not yours, of course, there's no personal energy, it would be a misperception. But if you become a channel for that universal energy, then of course things will come back to you, even usually also in material forms. So there will be, if there's an enormous outflow, an enormous giving, not yours, but as a channel, things will come back to you, because if you give out to the universe gives back. So you may enjoy wealth, but it would be just an adding on to, or you might give part of it away, or all of it, whatever it is that you feel is right for you. Just so you can, to summarize, for some, there's just a spontaneous evolution of the creative impulse into the external, and it happens through them without any prior plan. For others, something arises in their minds and say, yes, this is what I need to do. This is what wants to come into being through me. I feel that very strongly. And then you take action. And important is not be aware of the energy field behind the action that you take, so that you don't lose the presence, because the ego, even there, can still take over. If any action you take in order to achieve something, if stress and negativity come in, when you find obstacles, because there's always some obstacle that you encounter when you begin to create something new, there will be some obstacles. There will also be enormous help coming, not necessarily immediately, perhaps immediately, but at some point you will notice an influx of supportive energy. But you may also encounter obstacles in the form of people who don't want you to create something new. People who are so stuck in their mind patterns, they resist anything new. So that's a very common thing. Or obstacle in some other form. So if you encounter an obstacle and there's negativity or attack, you're attacking, then you're quickly losing power. The ego is attempting to take over. So whenever you are trying hard or struggling or stress arises, stress is another indicator that you are no longer fully aligned with the power within. Then you become stressed. upset, anxious, complaining, attacking somebody, you're losing power quickly. So that's a good indicator whenever you engage in creative action, manifesting this or that. Is stress arising? Now, I'm not saying that there is not going to be an intense energy behind when you're engaged in creative activity. There is intense energy behind it, which from an external viewpoint can sometimes be misinterpreted almost as stress, but it's not stress at all. It's just intensity of energy behind creation. It is, but it's joyful. It's intense but joyful, and you can feel that intensity when you're in the midst of some creation happening through you. Enormous intensity of energy, and that's but very different from stress. Stress is always it's not flowing, but this intensity is flowing. And it deals with the intensity deals with obstacles in a very different way from the ego. The intensity can sweep away obstacles, or it can transform obstacles into something helpful. Even humans, it doesn't attack. Another thing to be, yes, you find obstacles when you create something, but as I just mentioned, also you encounter the phenomenon of being supported. If your creation is aligned with what the universe wants, then it becomes enormously empowered. It's like riding on a huge wave. Somebody wrote a poem or something about it. Was it Shakespeare? It starts with, "There is a tide in the affairs of men." And I can't remember the rest. But so if you catch that tide, which is the tide of something wanting to be created through you, and that movement, and then you're riding on this enormous wave. And at some point, the creation then happens, and so then that wave comes to an end. And then there may be a time period when there's more of a withdrawal before new creation happens. So that varies from person to person. It's exciting, it's wonderful to be part of that, because it's something, an entirely new way of being coming to this planet.